trying to get us all to be fitter and healthier. We're going to be chatting very soon to Greg Wallace. Yes, MasterChef's Greg Wallace in just a few moments' time. So stay tuned for that. But the 5 bridges in Newcastle that are closed from today as the City Council tries to encourage people to walk and cycle and cut traffic levels in residential areas have been announced. The structures, which the Council says are not key routes, are closing whilst a 6-month public consultation exercise takes place. They include Salters Bridge in Parklands, which is being used by around 1,000 heavy goods vehicles each week. Here's Graham Grant from the City Council.
There's 5 bridges. One in Ousbourne Ward, which is just to the east of the city centre, called Argyle Street, Haldane Terrace in Jesmond, Salters Bridge, Stoneyhurst Road Bridge and Castles Farm Bridge in the northeast of the city, in and around the Killingworth Road, Hadricks Mill area. They're all used in different amounts. Salters Bridge is probably the one that's used the most. The key thing here is that this isn't about stopping access to homes or services, it's about reducing through traffic. Motor traffic cutting through streets has a serious impact on health and quality of life for people living there, and the issues of air and noise pollution are really real. But maybe the biggest negative impact of traffic cutting through streets is the fact that it changes the way that people use their residential areas, and we've known for decades that the lower the traffic on a street, the more community interaction and amount of play that you see on the streets, and that's what we're trying to do. But there's also the increased urgency of this because of the public health crisis that's going on at the moment. So in addition to the health and environmental benefits schemes like this can bring, the government has released requirements for local authorities to rapidly enhance our walking and cycling network. We've consistently been told through this period that one of the only positive things to have been experienced through lockdown was people's recognition that the air was cleaner, the noise pollution had reduced and people could hear nature and birdsong. And what we want to do is to take that information that people have been giving us and to make changes across the city that make that the norm in residential areas.
I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you live or you work in one of those areas, give us a ring or a message if it's going to affect you. Claire Andrews lives in Jesmond, near 2 of these bridges, and she's also a Green Party campaigner. So I'm guessing, Claire, your emotions regarding this, when you heard these bridges were closed, I'm guessing you're pretty happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really pleased to see these closures happening. They're kind of long overdue in my view, and there's lots of residents that have been asking for them. So I think they're going to really help save lives from road accidents, from air pollution and COVID as well as helping reduce the pollution that causes climate change. So all in all, they'll be protecting us now and our children and their futures too.
Some people will suggest that, even though I put this to Graham and he said it's not the case, but some people will say the traffic will simply go to other routes, making them parts of the city more congested.
Yeah, well, I think it does take time for habits to change. I mean, in my work, I'm a behavioural scientist, so obviously it's not going to, people aren't going to change their ways magically overnight, and there's bound to be a bit of annoyance initially, I think, as people start to adapt, just as there was with the now popular Northumberland Street pedestrianisation scheme. And I think that in the long term, though, we really will see the benefits, especially if this is part of a broader and joined up approach to making travel, clean travel, easier right across Newcastle.
How
so I think what we need to see... Yeah.
Sorry, how do we make that joined up approach work in a way that gets everyone to sing from the same hymn sheet? We've had disruption in Gateshead, disruption in Tynemouth and Whitley Bay, where people are really at odds with each other in you know, cyclists versus drivers. And how do we make that work? How do we make this a cycling friendly city, for instance?
I mean, I think 2 things. First, I think we need really clear messaging from the council about why this is really important. So stopping cars and lorries crossing through residential areas and near schools, well, there's obviously road accidents, but air pollution, mostly from exhaust fumes from cars, kills more than about 225 people a year in Newcastle. And just to put that in context, according to the BBC website yesterday, the death toll from COVID for Newcastle currently stands at 248 people. So both of those figures, I think, are really tragic, and both of them call for this kind of serious action to protect public health and the NHS. So I think to make that really work, we need to see the safe walking and cycling routes being connected up and improving public transport, and also better planning so that new housing isn't being developed to be car dependent. So obviously these are really positive steps forward, but to really see the benefits and bring people on board, I think we need to keep up this momentum.
It's been very cycle friendly the last few months because the weather's been quite nice and pandemic, and the bike shops have done very well. We've chatted to some of them. The weather, though, will change things, and the darker nights. Are we never really going to be suited to cycling en masse like somewhere like Amsterdam or Denmark?
Well, they have dark nights as well, maybe not quite as dark as us. But I do think, obviously, it goes to show that if you make people feel safer, more people are encouraged to start getting out on their bikes. But it's about working with businesses and workplaces so that there are kind of places to hang your coat, your wet jacket, and your cycle helmet when you get there. But we have to remember, of course, that the poorest amongst us, that's about 1 in 10 people in Newcastle who don't have cars. And walking and cycling is obviously better, even if it's a bit dark, for people's physical and mental health as well. So I think people can be encouraged. I think, it's a lot of safety issues, and putting those changes in now means when the roads are a bit quieter and when, the weather's nice, gives people a chance to start to work out their walking and cycling routes in the long evenings.
Okay, Claire, thanks very much for joining us. Claire Andrews there, who lives in Jesmond, near 2 of these bridge closures, also a Green Party campaigner. Your thoughts, please. I know it's always interesting whenever we talk about bikes with regard to anything. Join in 0800 234 6565.
BBC Radio Newcastle.
Now, the government's trying to get us all to be fitter, to be